Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Vice President 101, where VPs are VIPs. All right. So, in case no one has told you yet, being the vice president is probably one of the coolest roles on the PTA, and I am absolutely biased because I happen to be a vice president. But don't worry about that. You can still take it and own it that you are one of the coolest people on the team. But don't brag. We'll get into that in a minute. All right, so for those of you who are new to PTA, actually, let me start with that. If everyone can just pop in the chat how many years you've been in PTA, or if this is your first year. So give me an idea of where everyone's at. While we do that, so for the newbies in the room, for the PTA mission is every child, one voice. So our mission is to make every child's potential a reality by engaging and empowering families and communities to advocate for all children. So that's a powerful statement, and that really is a very broad statement, and how that looks in your local unit will be a little bit different, but the end of that is just exactly what we're here for, right? We're here to empower other people, to make other people stronger, to make sure that we're doing everything that we can for the children who need us. All right, we have a lot of second years. Oh, awesome. Got some newbies. Fourth year. All right, way to go, Laura. Almost on that 5-year pin. We don't really give pins, but I'm going to say put it out there. All right, welcome. I love that we've got a lot of new years. All right. So for those of you who are new, and maybe even those that this one we haven't gone into a whole lot on all of our training. So first thing we're going to talk about is understanding the difference between your executive committee and your executive board. You'll hear both of them used, especially in trainings and communication. At your unit, most of the time people refer to the executive board. So we're going to start with the executive committee, and that would be you guys. Yay, jazz hands. All right. So the executive committee, those are the ones that get elected every year. So these are your presidents, your vice presidents, secretary or secretaries if you have both, and a treasurer. So these have to come to board meetings. You have to be a PTA member and you're a voting member. Now those are considered your officers. So if you hear anyone referring to the officer of a board, that would be you. If the executive committee is what that's called as well, or you'll hear it just abbreviated EC. So if anyone's talking about the EC, that would be the officers of the board. Once the officers are elected, then you guys will have your first officer meeting and you guys will choose your executive board. So your executive board will, the principal or someone that they appoint, so that one's a given. They get one vote on your board, and it does, like, they can appoint whoever they like. Typically it's the assistant principal, but whoever is going to be the representative for the principal on that board. If you are a PTA, you would choose a student. Typically you can put out a survey for everyone who's interested, interview the kids. I will tell you that is a fantastic experience. They are just wonderful to work with. So if you're a PTSA, you are required to have a student on your board. PTAs, you do not. And then standing committee chairs. So this one I'm going to go into a little bit. Your standing committee chairs are going to be anything that is a year-long committee, like hospitality, for example. That one stays around all year. Reflections is in a whole year committee membership. There are things that are temporary committees, like your nominating committee or your audit committee, things like that. Committees that are just put together for a short period of time. They are not part of your board. So once you guys get together, you have all your applications, you interview everyone, and you choose your standing committee chairs. Those people are part of your executive board, and that's your voting body. So meeting attendance is required for them as well, and they have to be a PTA member. And it's important to realize, because your chairs and your EC, which make up your executive board, that's your voting body. Now that is what dictates your quorum. So that's why you don't want to overdo it on chairs, but you want to make sure that you have enough, and that if someone wants to be a chair, that they have committed to coming to meetings. You can add additional people who don't want to come to meetings. That's fine. You can just call them a coordinator or assistant or whatever else you want. That's fine. But those chairs are going to be what's towards your quorum. So if you have 10 people on your board, your quorum is going to be 6, because you have to have one more than half. Whereas if you only have 6 on your board, then that means that you only have to have 4. So that's why it's important that if you are talking to people and saying, hey, do you want to be a chair? Make sure that they can commit to meetings, and the meetings are scheduled whenever is most convenient for your team. All right, so I'm going to take a breath there and see if anybody has any questions or wants to share some thoughts on the executive committee versus the executive board.
Rachel, if I may, just a quick question. Emily
Absolutely.
from a different session has asked if the slideshows are going to be available after the meeting, yes or no?
Absolutely.
All right, super, thank you.
All right. Yep. And you will have, all of this is also in your kit of materials and in your bylaws. So I made it pretty for this slide, but it is there. It is listed in a whole bunch of places. All right. So now let's get down to what you guys are, the VPs. So the bylaws is pretty simple. I'm not sure if everyone has checked it. If you've been returning, Florida PTA did just update these a couple months ago. Previously, the bylaws used to say vice president of, and exactly what you were the vice president of. So now it's changed that the vice presidents are all aide to the president, which means that in your standing rules, you would then put up exactly what you want your VPs to be. And this allows for a little bit more flexibility. So I'll say VP of Ways and Means, which is your, or VP of Fundraising, it's the same thing. Typically that is one that you almost always have. So when you have your standing rules, you can change that year over year. So let's say that this year you really want to focus on programs. So you have a VP of programs, but let's say next year, that's really not the focus. So you can change your VPs year over year. Now, if your bylaws do already state what the VPs are, that's fine. You don't have to update them until you get to the 3-year mark, but this is already in effect. So once Florida PTA makes a change, it automatically applies to us at the local level. So that one's a little bit new, but it does give a little bit more options on what type of VP that you can be. All right, and then vacancies. So this one's important, and especially for first VPs. Let's see a show of hands. How many are first VPs in here? Do the little reaction hand or type it in the chat. If you're not sure, you can say that too. Okay, we've got 1, 2. All right, cool. Okay, all right, we got a couple. So the way that this works and why being a vice president is so important. So if you see this at the top, the vice president is the aide to the president, but they're also the one, if something happens to the president, let's say they have a family emergency and they have to step down, or maybe they have to, maybe something comes up, like they're going on vacation during a very important thing that your PTA needs to do. So as first VP, your job is to step in when the president can't be there, or maybe if you've got a lot of committees, the president can appoint you to help out with something. But the goal is for you to be the right hand of the president and really help them out and be their #1 supporter. So if you're second VP, then that's still the same thing. So first, second, and third VP, it's not a huge difference, but that just means, so the president, if they're not able, it will go to the first VP. And then if the first VP is not able to do something, handle the event, then it goes to second and then third VP. So yep, only VP, Lisa, I see that. Yep, if you're the only VP, then you're automatically the first VP. It just means that if something happens to the president and they're not available, then that would be your responsibility. So typically the main thing that comes up is just meetings. So if you have your monthly board meeting and the president can't make it, then it would be on the vice president to run the meeting. Any questions on this slide? All right. Let's go on to the next one then. Okay, so as we mentioned before, we're going to take out our sorting hat if there's any Harry Potter fans. Tell me what VP that you are, if you have one. Not all PTAs assign a specific role for the VP. Some of them are just vice president or executive vice president, first vice president, but there are a lot that have specific goals. So go ahead and tell me what kind of things that you guys have or what your position is. Okay, VP of membership, good. VP of programs, excellent. So we'll start with those. So when a VP has a specific role, like membership or programs, that means that in addition to supporting the president, you have a focus, which is a good thing to have. Typically, there's additional responsibilities that come in with that, but this would be also like your focus area. So VP of membership, that one's pretty self-explanatory. Your goal is to increase membership. So that would mean that you're reporting on the monthly membership numbers, that you are making cute little flyers or putting some social media things together to boost membership, you know, be at PTA events where you can sell membership. So your goal is to increase the membership. And you could also take in to increase the benefits for your membership. So some things that I have seen, what I think it might have been Evans, I forget which school, but one of our schools went together and they got a discount card specifically for their PTA to encourage their membership. So that is a fantastic idea. If you know a local business or you can find someone that will give a discount to just your PTA members, that will help you, you know, sell memberships and increase the awareness of your PTA. So that's something a VP of membership can do. I do see in the chat if it says that you're not sure if you have a specific duty, that's perfectly fine. You can go check it after this class, check your standing rules or your previous bylaws, because if they haven't been updated, it may say it there. If you don't have one, you are more than welcome to have that conversation with your team and see if maybe you want to actually take on one of these labels to try and focus on a specific area. And let's see, the other one was VP of programs. So this is the VP that I have at my local unit because we didn't have a whole lot of programs. So we knew that we wanted that to be our focus that year. So VP of programs kind of oversaw our diversity, equity, and inclusion, reflections, all the other little programs that we're doing and big programs that we do for our kids. So we did a big winter event. We're working on our end of year event. So the VP of programs kind of oversaw all of those other little programs and helped support them and make sure that they had what they needed and that they were successful. So there's a list of examples here on the screen, but you can be VP of whatever you would like. VP of amazingness, I mean, I'm okay with that. But that is here, and that just gives you your focus in addition to just being the president's support. And I think the only other thing that I will add to this is sometimes if you have a bigger team, and I would encourage, let's say that you are a small team right now, maybe 3 or 4 people, because the minimum is 3, you know, president, treasurer, secretary. So VPs actually aren't one of the core critical ones, but you guys help grow the team and help make it bigger and stronger. So something that I like to do at the beginning of every year is to kind of see what VPs we need, see what chairs that we need, and then see what assistant roles we can do. And the reason for that is some people get kind of scared of titles, and these PTA titles are way fancier, I think, you know, than they actually are. They are a little intimidating. So sometimes I love to create those assistant roles because you can get people in if you give them a small thing to do. And if you can break your work up into smaller pieces, you can get more people involved and you'll have more help. So if it's something, I'll give an example. At my PTA last year, we had VP of flyer distributor chair. So that person's one job was just to come in and stuff flyers. And that was a huge amount of time that someone else had spent doing flyers. They had a lot of other stuff to do. But this particular person could just come in, stuff flyers right before they picked up their kid and went home. And they were great with that. And it was a huge help because it didn't matter what event we were doing. They were on it. And we had someone who always covered flyers. So those are little things to look at. If you have something that might be repetitive or at least just easy to do, you can break it up and have those assistant positions as well. Anything that you can do to help build and support your team, because being in charge of something doesn't mean you have to do it all by yourself. And I think that's something that a lot of us tend to forget. And I know PTA attracts a lot of go-getters and people who don't like to disappoint, and people who really like to do a good job. So it's hard. As VP, you definitely want to encourage and support your team, but making sure that you're not taking over. So we'll get to that in just a second. Okay. So now we're going to talk about the truth, right? We're going to turn VP into VIP. We're going to have our squad goals on the right where we're all chilling with pizza again one day. So as I mentioned just a little bit ago, your goal is to help further the team's goals and purposes. So for the team goal, I would recommend that one of your first conversations, whether it's as an officer or whether it's as your first actual board meeting, pick something that your PTA wants to really focus on. One or two things. It doesn't need to be everything. Now, you're still going to do your DEI work. You're still going to do your reflections. You're still going to do things that you do every year, your teacher appreciation. So there's a lot of things that are given that your board is used to doing every year. And you want to continue to do that, but have a little bit of a stretch in what you want to accomplish. So I'll say, for example, if you have a small team, the goal for the year would be increasing your team, and make that your team's goal. And so that way, when you are doing your events or you are doing your programs, that you are making a conscious effort to look at it in a different perspective. So if I'm going to have a book fair, for example, how can I use this book fair to gain more people? Can I break it up into smaller pieces and get people to volunteer for 1 or 2 shifts? Can I have people who come in and read to the kids? So work on anything that gets people in and gets them helping. So if that's your goal, is to grow your team. I know for my local unit, our goal next year is going to be focused around our DEI, which is diversity, equity, and inclusion. So that's going to be our focus next year. So we are going to be really looking at, are we being inclusive of everyone? Are we making sure that everyone has access to our programs? And equitable access doesn't mean that just everybody gets an invite, right? So that's something that we're growing within our team. So everything that we do, we're putting a DEI focus on it. And it's not, doesn't mean that it has to be a DEI event, but we're asking those questions as those programs happen. The next one, actually, let me stop. I'm going to take a pause. Do we have any questions on the goals or, how the purpose of the PTA? Everyone feeling like they have a pretty good idea of what being a VP is? Totally lost? Eating
So
donuts?
Rachel, I have a question, if I may.
Yes, absolutely.
When you decide on one of the titles, the VP, you had a wonderful slide there with all sorts of opportunities and different choices. Do you have to do anything special to change that focus, or is it literally just the agreement at the executive, or who decides when you switch, and how rigorous is that?
That's a good question. So it's part of your standing rules. So your board should, if you don't have standing rules, you will want to create them. So standing rules are your board's agreement on how they will, on how they will perform or do certain things. So in your standing rules, you will want to say that first VP is the VP of programs, and then your board will vote on that. So it's a board decision. It can be changed at any monthly board meeting, but it's recommended to make sure you're updating and reviewing your standing rules at least once per year. And typically that first meeting is where we talk about which VPs we need. If we pick that title, so if we pick VP of programs, you want to add a couple line items on exactly what you want that program VP to do. Because it's not just about making sure that you understand what your responsibilities are and what your goals are. It's about making sure everyone else does as well. So it is in the standing rules, and the board can change it at any monthly meeting.
Wonderful, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions, feedback, excitement? I can't see anybody, so I'm just looking at the puppies.
I'm looking at the pizza.
Oh, yes, it does look like a delicious pizza. That's for sure. Probably should not have put that this early. All right. So now let's talk a little bit about supporting the president. And put this in there both emotionally and mentally. So being a president is extremely stressful because the mark of any good leader is to make sure that they're giving away all the credit when something goes well, but taking all of the heat when something doesn't. So having a president is fantastic, and you want to support them, but you want to make sure that you can be a good sounding board for them, and provide constructive feedback. So let's say that something happens and it's a very stressful, and the president is, I'm going to give an example. Things with admin don't go as necessarily as planned. That one happens sometimes, where admin wants to do one thing and the PTA needs to do another. It's hard for the president to go to the principal and say, no, we can't do this, especially because we care about the kids and we want to do everything. We want to make the principals happy, but sometimes the answer is no, and no is okay. But that's a hard position for the president to be in. So sometimes they may just need to vent, or just have someone to talk to, or maybe they're not sure about a decision, or maybe they've just been very frustrated. So you want to be there as an emotional and mental support for the president. If they are, and it goes both ways, you guys want to do that for all of your team, but the president especially is going to be relying on you to make sure that that they're doing okay, right? Because you want to let your president know if she's doing a good job. If she's maybe struggling a little bit, give some good constructive feedback. I know one thing that helps with a really good president VP relationship is to ask questions. So if you don't want to just point out what people are doing wrong. So let's say the president does something and you think like, I would not have done that, ask questions like, okay, so that didn't have that didn't happen the way we want. What do you think we could have done differently? And let her ask you questions as well. So, or him. But if you have a president, you want to make sure that you're having those conversations and helping it to be a team effort. And you want to do that with the rest of your team as well. Definitely check on your treasurer for sure. They have a very stressful role as well. But it's just being that sounding board and being able to give good feedback, because and I'll say this, sometimes if everybody agrees on something too quickly, you want to make sure that you take a moment, step back and say, okay, have we thought of every possibility? Because if everybody's agreeing and everybody's exciting, sometimes that can be a little bit too much yes think. And you don't want everybody to just say yes all the time. You want to make sure that everybody is good and ready to talk. And of course, make sure that you're learning your rules and having good financial stewardship, taking care of the books, tending to the budget, and then just talk up your team, and go to the treasurer and like, man, I love that treasurer report. Like, that was so organized and easy to read. Let them know, it's the little things that really appreciate it. So if your secretary took some good minutes and they were just like spot on, let her know. If someone is just spiffy and just super excited, say, man, I really love your energy this morning. So talk up your team. That's the number one thing. I think that if you took away anything from this, is be that support, be the glue that holds your team together. All right, let's go to the next one. All right, we're going to watch a short video now on servant leadership. Let me know if you can hear it.
Hi, this film talks about servant leadership, what it is and why it makes sense.
Can everyone hear it?
Servant leadership is a tried and tested leadership
Yes.
approach that's about creating a shift from managing for results to designing environments that create results. Robert Greenleaf coined the phrase servant leadership in the 1970s. It's a form of leadership that replaces self-interest with service to others. Servant leadership is about influence rather than power and control, focusing on other strengths rather than weaknesses, listening rather than giving orders, and long-range benefits.
Okay, Rachel, it seems to have stopped.
Empathy, persuasion, stewardship, healing, conceptualization, and building a sense of community. Servant leadership is about transformation and future focus. And adopting its leadership principles complements agile ways of working really well. The nature of work in the workplace has changed drastically. Our leaders need to demonstrate an ability to adapt. According to the Economist Intelligence Unit, the top 3 emergent leadership requirements are ability to motivate, ability to work well across cultures and geographical boundaries, and ability to facilitate change. An effective servant leader would demonstrate these by role modeling collaboration, accountability, and demonstrating innovation, emphasizing the importance of embracing and applying new knowledge at an individual and team level, and encouraging novel approaches and ideas. New demands are being made of leaders at all levels. The world's leading lean innovation, strategic, excitement, tactical, communication, production, consensual, and delegation. So, in summary, servant leadership is an attractive, effective, and proven approach that should be the choice for those interested in transformation at an individual and organizational level.
All right. So what do you guys think of that one? So I'm going to have somebody come off mute and let me know what you think of the video before we go into it further. Have any of you heard of servant leadership? All right. Michelle, I cannot see everyone, so I'm going to have you call on somebody for me.
Okay, Lisa. Oh no, Lisa was the one without the mic. I'm an idiot. Jennifer.
No, I've never heard of it. This is my first year.
Okay, I'm going to call on Justin.
Sorry, I missed the question. I'll admit I was multitasking.
Rachel was asking as to whether anybody was familiar with the concept of servant leadership.
Yes. It's making sure that you're working to serve the membership and not kind of taking that, I hate to use the word, but dictator role and processing it. And that's one transition we've tried making within our PTA over the last couple of years, is making it more open and, serving our members and teachers and parents within our PTA.
Wonderful. Do you want any more, Rachel? You're on mute if you're speaking, Rachel. Oh, I think we lost her. Oh, well, I'll tell her how wonderful that answer was, Justin, when she comes back in. I see Lisa's note here. I love the idea that servant leadership is outward focused, not progressing one's own interests. Absolutely. I'll admit I've come across it from being at work. We do agile methodology in our software development, so very much servant leadership based there. Okay, let's see, who else can we ask? Gabriella, would you like to share your thoughts on servant leadership?
I think in this position it's very important that we are servant leaders, because we put the needs of others before ours. And I think that should be the focus for the PTA. Just think about the kids, think about the teachers, think about the school, and not just be in that position because we want power.
Absolutely. Good, excellent. Yeah, excellent point. And there's
Okay.
Rachel back again. Yay.
Yes,
Rachel,
sorry. I fell out for a moment.
don't
Okay,
worry, they
okay.
have been giving some wonderful answers.
Yes, I caught the last few. That's fantastic. I actually heard some of the things that we're going to go into. It is not about power. So the slide that you see in front of you is exactly what everybody was just saying.
We're not seeing the slide yet, Rachel.
Oh, shoot. All right. Hold, please.
Don't
Just
worry.
imagine the slide. All right. All right. How about now?
It is starting. There you go. Yeah.
Oh, yay. Okay. Is this what everyone was imagining? All right. Okay. So the top percentage, and I want to take a look here. I want you guys to take a look real quick, is the number one things when, and this is from Harvard Business Review, so we know it's legit. The top 10 leadership competency is strong ethics and safety is number one. So we've talked about a lot of things, what servant leadership is, and we talked about being an awesome VIP, but none of that matters if your team doesn't have trust in you. So trust and ethics, sorry, my cats are being mischievous. Your team has to be able to trust you to do the right thing just because it's the right thing to do. And that is a culture that you need to build within your team. It is not some, you will start by demonstrating it as a PTA leader and making sure that you're doing the right thing. But it is something that you have to continue to grow within your team, because you can have a toxic culture where everyone is angry at each other, frustrated, no one wants to talk. And if you've been in PTA for a couple years, you know that happens sometimes. But if you build a culture of trust and psychological safety, then those will be a team that you can grow and develop, and things are always going to improve. So psychological safety, if you haven't heard that term before, that means that your team feels comfortable coming to you with a question, or your team feels comfortable coming to you with a frustration or feedback. Because I will tell you right now, if someone has come to you with something that they are not okay with, or they think that something can do better, and your first response is, oh, well, we've always done it this way, or oh, we do it this way because, or okay, well, that's not right, and let me tell you why. You're going to lose your team, and you're going to lose your team fast. And you definitely don't want to do that. But as you start to say, okay, well, tell me why that you feel that way, or okay, so if that didn't work, how can we do better? If you start asking those questions, your team is going to start asking those questions of themselves and others. So by being a leader, it helps you grow your team. It helps your team feel safe and feel happy and feel excited to work with you. And I'm going to touch on the second one here, second and third one, and fourth. Okay, we're going to go to the top four. So self-organizing. This one is important, especially as an officer, because sometimes the officers will set goals, and we talk about those goals, but you definitely don't want to micromanage people. And when you have brand new people, there's a balance. So you don't want to say, oh, here you go, new person, here's the stuff to do, go do it. You don't want to let people flounder. That will backfire just as quickly. But at the same time, if you have someone who's been doing the position or has done it, maybe not necessarily within PTA, but let's say hospitality, for example, if you have someone who works at a restaurant and knows how to set things up, give them their budget. If you have a theme, let them know the theme, and then trust them to do the right thing. As a leader, you'll want to check in with them. And that's typically the president's role. But if your team is set up where it's structured where as an officer, you have a couple chairs that you're responsible for that you partner with, you can check in with them as well. So you want to check in with them. Hey, how's everything going? And then if they show you their plan, take a look at the plan, highlight all the good stuff that they did. And then if there's anything maybe missing, then put it in there and feed it in that way. But you want to find that balance. If there's new people, you want to give them as many details as possible without being overwhelming. So when you're trying to give instructions to someone new, think about what is actually critical for something to happen. So if you are, I'm going to use hospitality again. If you are going to tell them that they're going to have an event, critical items, you have to have food. You have to have things to serve the food with. You have to have beverages. You know, you do not have to have paper doilies. You know, if your last person was a doily obsessed, we are going to appreciate that past person. And if we've had doilies for the past 20 years, we are not going to require the new person to use doilies, because that is not critical to making something happen. So just come with that in mind, because your new people are going to come with the new ideas. They're going to have new energy. Embrace that, love it, let that grow and let that blossom, because as you allow new energy to come in and allow that excitement to come in, it will continue to grow, and you will have more of that with your team, and you will get more volunteers a lot faster, I promise, because that positive energy, it attracts more positive energy. Clearly communicating expectations. I'm going to hop on these real quick, but clearly communicating these expectations is making sure that people really understand what you're trying to say. And this one is very difficult because sometimes, especially if you've got someone who's been in PTA a while versus someone new, or you have someone with a direct and outgoing and outspoken personality with someone who's quiet and reserved and likes to think, those are not always going to communicate as clearly. So I'll give an example. Like, I personally am someone who just likes to get to the point, check, 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 done. My president, she is more sweeter, I guess. It's a terrible thing to say that I'm not sweet, but she is, she just likes to talk and really get into it and really focus on something. And she loves that. Like, she's super patient and kind, and so it's a balance. So if I'm going too crazy, she'll let me know and we've got to calm down. But if she's not moving along, then we have built that relationship and built that trust that if she needs to scoot, I'll let her know. And if I need to sit myself down, she'll let me know, but it's okay. And I've let her know that if I'm going wild, let me know, because I know that about myself. And we're running out of time, so I'm going to skip on to the next one. Okay. As we said, the heart of a servant leader is to ask for other people's opinion. Do this as often as you can. Ask for someone else's feedback and make sure that you're open to actually receiving it. When you ask that question and they give you their answer, there's no need to explain. There's no need to justify why you did think something a certain way, especially small things. You know, if someone says, okay, well, I couldn't find how to get into the cafeteria during this event. Okay, don't tell them that you put up 6 signs, sent an email, sent a map, made a video, sent a phone call, and oh my God, you still didn't get it, you know? Because we've all been there and we know that, and it's hard sometimes to see all of that effort that we put into making it as laid out and beautiful instructions as possible, and there's still always that like 10 to 20% that are just like, what? And that's mostly not because people are ignorant or stupid. It's because they have a different communication style. Like I said, for me personally, I will put just what you need to do. And I like the bullet list. I like just boom, 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 done. But some people like a paragraph. Some people like a book, and we got to talk to those people because not everyone wants to read a book. But think about your communication style and be open to receiving their opinion. You know, make sure that you're looking to be informed. So you want to know what's going on. You want to be involved. Don't seek to be right. Again, that will burn your team so fast. Do not catch yourself. Think of yourself when you read someone else's body language. So if you're talking to someone and you can see that either they're talking less, their eyes are going down, their shoulders have sunk in, they're moving back, you are losing your connection to that person. Check yourself on where you are and say, am I really communicating this in the way that I want to? Because most of us are loving and passionate and compassionate, but it's hard sometimes because not everybody communicates the same way. So make sure that you're having that moment, because next point, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And especially as a vice president, when it comes back to that title, like, oh my gosh, she's the vice president. This is not like, you know, we're not a actual vice president of anybody. Everybody's working for free. So you can offer people to double their salary anytime, you know, but people can quit anytime at the same time. So Let people know that you are there as a servant. You are there to serve not only them, but the children and the team. Let them see you serve, and invest in your people. Like I said, ask people how they are, and then actually care about the answer. If they've told you that their mother is sick in the hospital, don't talk about your mother and when she was sick. That's not the time for that. If someone is hurting or in pain, embrace them and say, I understand, I'm here with you, give them the love and attention, and don't stress the small things, and don't forget the small things. Relationships are about trust. They don't happen overnight. Like if you go to the gym and you work out for 6 hours, you are not suddenly over like, yeah, I'm fit. It doesn't work that way. If anybody's fallen in love before, you don't just walk up to someone on the street and say, oh man, I just love you. I mean, we talk about love at first sight, but it's really not first sight. It is love is, did you say good morning to that person? Did you help that person? Did you give that person a pen when they needed it? Did you think proactively and come with instructions? Or did you leave a piece of candy or protein bar if we're really health conscious? Are you taking those little steps to help your team and build trust? Because those little things mean a whole lot more than anything else. If you're going to tell your team that you're going to be there at 6 o'clock, be there at 6 o'clock. If you tell your team that you're going to be late, that is fine. Let people know ahead of time. Like, yes, I can help with this event, but I can't be there until XYZ time. That is fine. Something comes up, you can't be there, still fine. Let people know as soon as you know. That is one frustrating thing that tends to happen, is a no call, no show, or ghosting is what I call it. Don't be that person. And really work with your communication, because miscommunication, as we said, is the #1 cause of arguments in any relationship, not just the PTA. So you're coming into this with a whole bunch of strangers that you may not have even met before, but you have the opportunity to build it into a team of brothers and sisters, because that's truly what we are. We are a team, no matter what our political standpoint, no matter what our relationships are, our family, religion, we all come together for the needs of the children. And that's really what we're here for. And that is something that connects us all. And you can really enjoy that and really grow. And the quote down here at the bottom, being a leader is not about being in charge, but it's about taking care of those people that are in your charge. And that is it for today.